Hi, my name is Cheryl Countess, and I'm a legal advocate with MBLS's Human Trafficking Prevention Project, HTPP. I've been asked to provide a quick overview of trauma-informed lawyering. Specifically, what is it? Lawyers, paralegals, and legal advocates are trained and expected to be empathetic and client-centered in our work. Trauma-informed lawyering is client-centered and built on empathy, but it goes much further. It's a practice that incorporates assessment of trauma and trauma symptoms into all routines. It also ensures that clients have access to trauma-focused interventions. That is, interventions that treat the consequences of traumatic stress. Trauma-informed lawyering has four key characteristics. First, identifying trauma. Next, adjusting the attorney-client relationship based upon the identification of that trauma. Adapting litigation strategies that are appropriate and preventing vicarious trauma. In this brief introduction, I will focus on two of the four characteristics: identifying trauma and preventing vicarious trauma. Katz-Halder, in the pedagogy of trauma-informed lawyering, draw on several sources to define trauma. An event is traumatic when it renders an individual's internal and external resources inadequate, making effective coping impossible. A traumatic experience occurs when an individual subjectively experiences a threat to life, bodily integrity, or sanity. The American Psychological Association defines trauma as an emotional response to a terrible event like an accident, rape, or natural disaster. Longer-term reactions include unpredictable emotions, flashbacks, strained relationships, and even physical symptoms like headaches or nausea. While these feelings are normal, some people have difficulty moving on with their lives. Understanding trauma is critical because it has physiological effects on the brain. The brain's prefrontal cortex, which is critical to decision-making and memory, often becomes temporarily impaired. The amygdala, which is that part of the brain known to encode emotional experiences, begins to dominate, triggering the release of stress hormones. Release of the stress hormones results in a range of reactions. Reactions look different because we're all different, but can include anxiety, depression, chronic guilt and shame, a sense of helplessness and ineffectiveness, difficulty trusting others or maintaining relationships, vulnerability to re-victimization, and becoming a perpetrator of trauma, forming unhealthy relationships and angers towards others, including you. At the HTPP, all our clients have had traumatic experiences. Similarly, lawyers and paraprofessionals working here at MBLS are working with clients who have likely experienced severe trauma as well. Again, trauma-informed lawyering ensures that you incorporate trauma and trauma symptoms assessment into all your practice, including creating a sense of safety within your practice, being educated about the impact of trauma, and committing to interactions that do not re-traumatize clients. Consider the range of support and referrals that clients experiencing severe trauma may need, and specifically interventions that treat the consequences of traumatic stress. This strategic approach helps clients identify their needs, and incorporating an understanding of trauma in your routine, from the physical structure of your office, what you include in developing your case strategy, and how you prepare and support your client, leads to more effective representation. The second characteristic that I'd like to lift up is vicarious trauma, or more specifically, preventing vicarious trauma, sometimes called compassion fatigue or secondary trauma, which occurs when an individual has repeated exposure to the pain, fear, and trauma of others, which in turn changes that individual's view of the world As a result of repeated exposure, lawyers, legal advocates, and paralegals may experience symptoms that mirror those of traumatized clients, including anger and irritability, addictive or compulsive behaviors, and having one's worldview and sense of purpose compromised. To prevent vicarious trauma before it affects you, regularly assessing how you might be affected by your exposure to trauma is critical. The next step is to create space and time for your own self-care. Thank you for spending a few minutes with me. To learn more about trauma-informed practices, please visit the HTPP resource page at www.mvlslaw.org/ht/resources. There you'll find videos, slides, and tip sheets on advocating for survivors of trauma, trauma-informed interviewing, supporting client agency and equity, and the cost of caring and strategies for promoting resilience. Thank you.